Okay, well, welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. Andre here today, and I have another unboxing, yet another Steam Deck peripheral. So this here was shipped all the way from Japan because it is in fact a Japan exclusive. It's also not from Valve. It is a third-party licensed branded device. Oh wow. Live on air, scissors falling apart. Don't worry about that, we'll get through this. So, this is with a partner, a Japanese company called Hori, I think, Hori. And this is a very interesting device. So, I had to buy this off of eBay in order to get it. And it arrived just earlier today. But you can see here, Japanese, which I don't read. But we have what looks to be a fairly play-by-numbers dual stick controller type design. And I've got a couple here that we can talk about in comparison. But let's just go ahead and get in here. So, don't think there's any tape or anything holding this in. I'm just kind of sticking a bit. Oh, I see what's going on. It's this tab here at the top, folded in. Get it under there. Okay. Getting inside the box here. Voila. We have ourselves a little instruction manual. It does not appear to include English instructions. A little dongle. I believe this is a Bluetooth dongle and should probably not be necessary because the device itself has Bluetooth and the device I'm connecting it to, the Steam Deck or my computer as it may be, both have Bluetooth. It's possible that this is some other wireless frequency, and in some cases the dongle can provide actually a higher bandwidth connection, so this may come in handy yet. And this device comes in a few different colors. I went with black, just it's the first controller of this type I'm buying. I imagine using it with the Steam controller or the Steam Deck, so I wanted it to match as best as possible. So we got the controller out there. Just going to check in here for anything else. Okay, and it comes with a cable. So putting that box aside, what do we have? Oh, and I'm just noticing that this stream, for whatever reason, is in the corner. That's very annoying. I'm not redoing any of this, but let's see if this kind of fixes it. Okay. In the box, we have the controller. We have a dongle. We have a cable, which is USB Type A to USB-C, and the instruction manual. I'm going to put the instructions aside. Now, many people have commented on how light this is, and I will say, yeah, that's not an exaggeration. It is light. Certainly feeling lighter than the original Steam controller, as well as the DualSense that I have here. Even if I remove the peripheral keyboard. And so it's certainly the lightest of the three. Some people say cheap. Personally, when I think of a cheap controller, I'm thinking about, is it going to get stick drift? Is its battery going to start getting really weak? And, you know, my opinion is that this does not feel too bad in terms of its build quality. Now, ergonomically, every controller does take a minute to get used to, so I don't want to fault this for being different. But it does feel like it does not have the level of ergonomics of, say, an Xbox controller, which is my favorite ergonomics. Even the DualSense, you know, I've gotten used to. It feels pretty good in the hand. So I wouldn't necessarily say that at first impression this is a fantastically ergonomically designed controller, but it seems fine. I'll spend some time with it and see if my opinion kind of changes. And I suppose it's worth saying that the original Steam controller was at least ergonomically a bit odd. So I think that as a sort of successor, a spiritual successor, we got to give this thing a chance. So you see a standard A, B, X, Y layout. I like this particular layout. There are many different button layouts, including these 4 symbols on PlayStation, and then of course a different ordering of A, B, X, Y on Nintendo controllers. But this layout is the same as the Xbox controller, and I would say when it comes to PC gaming, this is the best layout. And I think that third-party controller manufacturers should generally lean towards this. I think my audio levels are a bit high. See if I can adjust audio. Don't want to hurt anyone's ears or give you bad audio quality. Let's try about there. Little lower. Little lower. Okay. So we have a standard A, B, X, Y layout. We have 2 thumbsticks. Again, these are more similar to the Xbox controller's layout, which I think is good compared to the DualSense, in which both thumbs are down here. Personally, I have not tended to find that works as well. I kind of like this staggered design. That could possibly be just a personal preference. You have these 2 buttons, which again, called slightly different things on everything. Start and select are the classic. I think that now they're called like menu and back or something strange like that. Don't know if they have official names on Steam, but you can see that this is matching the button layout here. We have these 2 buttons for menus. We also have this Wi-Fi button, which is interesting. I'm actually not as sure if this is going to be highly necessary. We have the Steam button. That tends to be for system menus. And then this, which is a secondary menu button. And this button, as small as that may seem, is actually one of the sort of features of this controller that you don't get on, say, if you use another third-party controller that wasn't explicitly made for the Steam Deck. So certain menus are a little bit harder to access. You might need to use a keyboard cord, or that's not a good way of putting it. You might need to use a button combination in order to pull up the right-hand menu on the Steam Deck. The Steam button, of course, pulls up the left-hand menu, and most controllers have some kind of button that can do that. So this PlayStation button would be what does that. Those are the sort of menu buttons. We have a 4-directional D-pad. This is nice and clicky. I think this is maybe actually one of the better feeling D-pads, just because it's so easy to know which one you're clicking, and it seems pretty easy to hit the combos here. Not sure if this is going to be any kind of battery light or anything like that. We'll have to see when we get it turned on. Okay, and then we have two triggers and 2 shoulder buttons, so that's fairly standard. You see that it connects here with USB-C. Of course, I love that it uses USB-C, as everything should. The old Steam controller, of course, is quite old at this point, but it's on that old micro USB standard. I find it difficult to keep micro USB cables and devices around, so I'm certainly glad that this is upgrading in that way. But one thing you'll see if you just take a look at the controller as it is, you don't see any kind of way to open it up easily and swap batteries. And so this seems to be a controller that you charge by plugging it in, which puts it in the same category as the DualSense, and makes it different from the original Steam controller, which allowed you to remove this and swap the AA batteries here and here. And that's also the design of the Xbox controller. And again, this is my personal preference, opinion, but I tend to prefer hot swappable batteries, because you can always get a set of rechargeable double A's. They'll work in other devices rather than just your Xbox controller. So even compared to, say, a rechargeable battery pack, I tend to recommend just using double A's and recharging that way. But with, say, the DualSense, which has a notoriously short battery life, you can be playing a game and suddenly find your controller dead, and then not have an easy way to simply swap the batteries and keep playing. You might have to plug in, which could mess up where you're sitting and that kind of thing. So I always think it's good to have the option to just swap the batteries quickly and put the dead ones in a charger. But it's not a huge deal, especially if you have more than one. And we'll see what the battery life on this is like. One thing that has been kind of a wide point of criticism is that, to my knowledge, this has no form of rumble. And while that is disappointing, I do appreciate rumble and haptic feedback. It may help the controller have a very long battery life, which is a completely separate upside that I think is worth something at the very least. Okay, so if you look here on the back, you see we have these two back paddles. If we flip over the Steam Deck, of course, it has 4 back paddles. And these, you never really realize you need them until you need them. And there are certain games and certain control schemes where I've found it's actually much easier to use the back paddle. Sometimes it's even just nice to be able to use my third and fourth finger, which may be less tired than my index and thumb and third. So there are certainly good uses for those back paddles. Now, there's only 2 on the back here because the other 2 go here to the thumbs. So while it is matching the sort of 4 extra buttons that the Steam Deck has, it is not putting them in the exact same location, and that may cause some change in utility. Now, other obvious difference, of course, is that the Steam controller has these 2 touchpads, which are highly customizable. Personally, I don't use them that much, but kind of similar to those back paddles, there are times when you need it, or they would be very nice to have, and you might miss them a bit when you don't have them. I don't think that I think many people will be perfectly happy with a controller like this one. So I don't know that it's critical functionality for a lot of people, but certainly fans of the original Steam controller are disappointed that this has no touchpads, not even one. And I think I'll be curious to see if Valve does their own first-party successor to the Steam controller that attempts to bridge all of those needs of people and make something that truly has all of the same functionality as the Steam Deck. So that's effectively a tour of the main features of this controller. There's a few additional switches here, and I can't say I have a great idea of what these are. Actually, I do think I know. So this is probably switching between the dongle and the Bluetooth, or it says wired only, so maybe between the wire and the wireless. And then this is for the triggers, and that is because most triggers are what they call analog triggers, which means that a short squeeze is separate from a full squeeze, and that might be useful in racing games and other games that take advantage of it. And then there's digital, so I think this is analog and this is digital, and I don't know if that really changes how these press physically, but it makes it so that the button is either pressed or not pressed, and there is no in between. So for certain games, you might not want to have that sort of fine grade analog trigger, and so you would switch it. Other people have commented that there is very short travel on these triggers. So if you compare it to, say, a DualSense, you can see the DualSense has this kind of pretty noticeable squeeze. It's like, about an inch. And here, you might not even really be able to see it. It's just a centimeter or so of travel. So this might not be the most appropriate controller for games that use the analog triggers. I personally don't play too many games that take advantage of that, so I would be kind of curious to see how well it works. So there you have the buttons on this. We'll get it turned on in a second. I'm just going to make a note of a few other little things. So I talked about the hot swappable batteries. There's one other thing, at least, that I think is worth pointing out. You'll notice that I used this chat pad or keyboard on the DualSense. I find this quite useful sometimes, especially because the Steam Deck is a PC and it has a desktop mode. I think that even just when it comes to typing in passwords or a character name, it is just occasionally very nice to have a chat pad like this. If you're an online player, but you don't necessarily want to use voice chat, you want to send messages occasionally. And so, again, while many people may not use a peripheral like this, I've become quite used to them. And many times they plug in through a 3.5 millimeter jack here. And this is also what allows you, for instance, to say, plug in a set of wired headphones and listen to the audio of your game without having to go through the speakers or hook up your headphones in some other way, say directly to the device. So if you're playing in docked mode, for instance, this would be probably by your TV. You wouldn't want to run a cable all the way to your headphones, but holding a controller in your hand, a short cable from your headphones to your controller, not such a big deal. But you'll see that on this, there's no port for that sort of thing. So the controller is as it is, and you shouldn't expect to be enhancing this with any additional peripherals. Again, for most people, probably not a big deal. For a licensed third-party controller, I don't see this as a big deal. But if Steam were to make a successor to the Steam controller, I think that I would hope that they would have some expanded functionality options available to see what the community can do. And that's very much in the Steam Valve ethos about creating a sort of open platform for people to use as they see fit. So let's go ahead. We'll get this connected to the deck. Oh, I still have Halls of Torment open. I'll come back to that later. But for now, let's go into our Bluetooth settings and get this connected. Now, it's possible that this device is not charged. And indeed, it appears to not be charged. So I might have to plug this in order to make it work. Hopefully that will not cause any issues getting it connected. So let me just use the included cable. I have a power supply on the wall. So let's see how this works out. Okay. Okay, we've got it plugged into power. It might be a little subtle on the video. You can see that this little Steam logo with a little charging icon popped up. I gotta say, that certainly does have a certain kind of cheap electronics feel to it. It's a very sort of Fisher-Price display, if you will. I don't think that is highly important, but certainly, you know, if you're the sort of person who drops a lot of money on a controller to have a certain premium sort of vibe to it, this may not be the controller for you. And I paid what they probably already have or can get just without having to ship overseas. So I have the deck in pairing mode, and I see a blue flashing wireless button. And so far, nothing. I'm wondering if maybe this is because it does need this dongle. And that may be something that we have to try in a minute. Because so far, I'm not seeing it. I think I have a little adapter in here. Otherwise, I might have to quickly run and get one. But with an adapter, I can plug this into the Steam Deck directly, and we can see if that gets this paired up. Let's try holding down this button. Okay, so that seems to have ended the pairing mode. So seemed like it was already in pairing mode, and I ended it. If I press and hold it again, nothing, nothing. Okay, it's in pairing mode. It doesn't. It's not plugged in currently. I just kind of wanted to test that out. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Okay, well, while that continues to not pair, I will go get a USB-C dongle to get this plugged into the deck and see if we can connect it via the dongle. Stay right there. Okay, and we're back. So, using this little USB Type-C dongle, I can plug in the wireless adapter here. Let's see if that helps out at all. I'll just plug this back in. One thing I'll say, I actually kind of appreciate that this has a sync button, just because I find it so common that it's kind of, it can be difficult to know or remember how to put a controller into pairing mode. Although in this case, I'm sort of having trouble keeping it in pairing mode. I'm actually kind of curious right now. I don't see any devices, and I find that a little strange. I mean, I connect this DualSense to the deck all the time. I'm just going to quickly check for updates and see if maybe that's going on. No, that seems fine. What about the Steam controller itself? Okay. It's acting a little bit strange, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to restart the deck entirely. See if that maybe helps us out here. Okay. So we'll give that a second. And we'll give this a second to keep charging. I'm just like trying to get a better set. Okay, now it's back in pairing mode. So far, I'm not actually quite sure I fully understand how to use this button and this button, but generally speaking, this stuff gets a little easier as you spend more time with it, and especially once you have it connected the first time. So it currently is trying to pair with the device that's restarting. Just give it a moment. Okay, it's coming back. Seem to have slightly jostled my setup. How about that? Do, 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 do. Okay, well, I just got some audio through my Bluetooth headphones as that restarted, so at least it's connected to one Bluetooth device. Yeah, one thing that some folks have mentioned is if you look at the sort of the molding on these buttons, you can see that these on like the DualSense, they're very low profile, close to the edge. These ones stick out a bit, especially at the edge here as the controller is tapering off. I've seen that mentioned as a negative. I gotta say, it doesn't really seem to matter that much. I can see, I guess, if you really play over here on the edge and you're sliding like this, it could start to annoy your thumb a little bit. On the other hand, it gives a really clean profile. Every single one of these is like on the same plane. And so when you press X, it feels very similar to pressing B, even though the profile of the controller is lower. Okay, so we're back here. And we're in the Bluetooth. Okay, this is looking better. This is looking better. So let's start without the dongle. I believe this should work without the dongle. So I would like to see if we can get it connected that way. So let's put this back in pairing mode if we can. Looks like it's trying to pair. And I'm just searching through the options here, and I see a few, none of which look like a controller at the moment. But, and then I'm seeing something at the top here. Okay. That's not a big deal. Okay. These all look like TVs and audio devices. I'm looking for a controller. So far, nothing. Thought I saw it for a second. It was just my imagination. Okay, taking a sec, taking a sec. We can try this again. And on the back here, see, I've got wired only, and then okay. We have not yet successfully connected to the Steam Deck. So, given that this is taking us a minute, and I'm curious, let's start with wired. Wired is usually the easiest. Hey, check it out. We are connected. So that's a great start. That's a great start. Don't know why it was having so much difficulty. We might have to just kind of keep working on that. But let us... It proves that this adapter works at least. But as a wireless boy, I really want to see if I can get this working. I think the first issue may be battery life. It's possible it just needs some time to charge up a bit more. Although I don't think that should matter while it's plugged in. We've got power. It's trying to pair. Hmm. Well, in this case, maybe I can do a little research real fast and see if there's any trick I'm missing. Yes, and so far, sliding the hardware selector switch to PC, which it is. I will say, um, and this is not to be mean or anything. Um, the Steam Deck is an amazing device. It works best as a handheld. The docked and sort of living room experience, if you will, I think still has some work. I think it really does need a first party controller that's Steam branded and designed for the Steam Deck. So I was really hoping that this would be a step in the right direction, but pairing controllers I think remains one of the sort of annoying things about about the Steam Deck, and I'm not sure where that comes from, um, because I've had this kind of issue trying to pair my Xbox controllers and my DualSense, um, and it seems to me that it's just a little finicky. It might be because of the fact that it is a PC and it's Linux in the background, and um, these are third-party controllers and stuff, and so it's not as thirsty to just connect as quickly as possible and as easy as possible. Um, but I, you know, do not think it should be this difficult to get this paired wirelessly, especially when it includes this little dongle. Um, really unclear to me if I actually need that or not. Uh, and I'm wondering if it's maybe one of these devices, but I don't think it is. The HTC, XM, HTC, and then Bose. Let's try again. Okay, we got the blue light flashing. Do I dare try the Japanese instructions? Well, given the issues I'm having here, it may be best to just, let's try it on wired mode a little bit, just to take it for a little spin here. And then we can wrap up the stream, and I will get this connected at some point, and we can have a little bit more fun with it then. So, in wired mode, I'm just going to fire up any old game. Let's start with Halls of Torment, since this is what I've been playing. This is a very simple game. Doesn't even necessarily give the greatest opportunity to try this out. Also, actually, I'm kind of curious if I go into controller settings. Okay, nice. So you can see that it recognizes the controller. It's got a wireframe of it. They certainly talk about that this is a Steam input controller. I don't know all of what that means because I've used Steam input with other controllers, but okay, maybe part of what's going on here, because it was complaining earlier about the wireless. Let me. Okay, I'm trying again. I know it's a little silly because I've been trying this whole time, but other thing I'm going to try, I'm going to shut off the Bluetooth. Let's see, it sees nothing except my old devices. Let's try again. Come on. Yeah, it really doesn't seem to want to find the wireless, and I'm finding that really quite perplexing. I just don't know what to make of it. I mean, feel like we've tried pretty much all the things there are to try. Don't see updates. Oh wait, are there more devices here now? Oh wait, maybe it's this one. I'm gonna go for it. There's so many of these HTCs. I'm like, either that's like a surround sound system or something, Or there's duplicates like these two LG TVs, which I'm pretty sure are actually the same device. This is what always happens to me every time I try to do a live video anything. Is it's all issues, and then I don't really make the video.
And it's paired.
Okay, I'm watching instructions now.
Okay, there it is. There it is at the very top there.
All right, and theirs just showed right up. Maybe I have to go back a little farther.
Oh, so now it's blinking. Okay, it's turning on. Hold this down for 3 seconds. Oh, so now it's blinking differently. What does the Steam Deck have to say? Okay.
Oh, okay. I think I might have gotten it into pairing mode. There we go. Okay, so that was a little confusing. I had to look up online instructions, but in the end, I held down the sync button for 3 seconds, and it changed the way that it was blinking. Um, So I think that's the difference between like I'm trying to reconnect versus I'm trying to pair a new device. I'm going to unplug the dongle now, see if we're still golden. We are. That's as I thought. So it's connected using the Steam Deck's Bluetooth and not requiring this dongle, although again, could potentially provide better performance. So now that I'm connected, I'm a pretty happy camper navigating around the Steam UI. You can see if I hit the Steam button, we get the main Steam menu with your home, library, store. I know that looks blurry, but with this button, we can now get that right-hand menu. So notifications, things like brightness, these are all useful things. And difficult to access without this button. So that's great. I just want to go, let's see what we get inside the controller option here. So you can see it's showing up as wireless Horipad for Steam. Don't call it a Steam controller 2 or the Hori Steam controller because that will upset some people. Interesting enough, it has Game Rumble as a setting here, even though, to my knowledge, this does not. This does not support Rumble at all. But let's try this test. So you can see here, yeah, very difficult to use the analog trigger. You basically just barely press it, and you're pretty much going through it. It's very difficult to get from 0 to like these lower values. Joystick, D-pad, A, B, X, Y. Probably shouldn't press this one. I pressed this one. You see it didn't give us an indicator there. It's not really like a button for that. And it's, let's see. Yeah, it's showing us the back paddles with L4 and R4 with this little true, false, true, false. So it didn't have a way of showing that on the actual graphic, I guess. But that all looks good. Hold B to exit. Okay. Calibration and advanced settings. See, gyro, I just kind of want to see what this does. It requires the controller to be perfectly still. Okay, I'm actually not going to do that, but let's just... Yeah, so you can see this glyph here is actually showing the rotation, and then you can go this way as well as this way. So you have 1-axis, 2-axis, 3-axis. Now, I don't play very many games that use this. Let's see if I have one installed. So I was going to do Halls of Torment earlier, but I think for this, the best game that I can think of that I'm fairly certain supports this is Flower. Do I still have this installed? I don't. Well, I'll get that installing, but in the meantime, we can see if we have anything else. I probably have like Half-Life. Yeah, screw it. Let's try Half-Life. Also has an update, but that's fast. And I'm, not great at this game, and it's not necessarily the greatest game to test this out on because it wasn't really designed with controllers in mind from the get-go. Now, I seem to recall turning gyro off. Now, I will just say, starting off here, and I know that Half-Life is one of those old FPSs where you move at like 1,000,000 miles per hour, but this feels good. This feels good. Feels precise. Controls are weird again because it's Half-Life, so like using the D-pad to switch weapons is weird to me. But yeah, I feel good running around here like this. Oh, we got Flower downloaded. Before we switch to that, let me just see if I can get the gyro enabled. Aim. Yeah, it's not going to be in these, probably, because, again, nobody had really heard of a gyro controller back in those days. So let's try if there's any kind of gyro behavior. Gyro is mouse. Let's see. I don't know if I need to like reconfigure anything in order to make this work. I feel like I'm not using it. Um, controller settings. Controller settings. Eh. Let's see if we have better luck with flower. And then I'll mess with controller settings. Still installing DirectX, so that takes a minute. Okay. Sure. Start with this first level. It's been a long time since I played this. Maybe turn somewhere here as a light. There we go. Might help you see a little better. So, can we skip this cutscene? Is that what's going on? The game just freeze on me? I might have broken the game. Oh god. I broke the game. Does it not work anymore? Try a different level. Okay. It's trying to start. You can't see anything yet. Okay. Is this game really acting up today? I beat this whole thing on deck, so I don't know why it would be struggling so much. Well, I don't know. Try Half-Life again. Oh, there we go. Okay, I think it needed to restart, so that makes some amount of sense, but I I can't say that I'm used to this or anything, but like I can kind of see why people enjoy. For me, as a lifelong native uh, of dual stick controllers, I mean, basically since they were invented, um, I do not necessarily find it easier to aim with gyro. Some people love it. I mean, and this feels smooth. I'll say that much. It's like I'm not used to aiming like this, but it feels fairly precise. I just don't really know how you deal with, like, let's say I want to turn in a circle, right? So I can like go this far and then what? Do I like keep like scooching it like this? Cuz that's a weird way to go in a circle for me, especially when I can just go like this. Um I know people kind of say that they do like their macro aiming with the gyro and then make a small adjustment with the thumbstick. So I think that people who use gyro um, tend to use it in combination with some other input device. But for me, that's something that would take quite a bit more getting used to. But that was just to kind of test it out. It's cool to see it working. Uh, so I don't really know if there's too much more to say or think about when it comes to this. Certainly, I can keep trying it out and may share more thoughts with it about it in the future. But for now, that is the wireless Horipad for Steam, not the Hori Steam controller or the Steam controller 2 or any kind of Steam controller. It is the wireless Horipad for Steam, if that's important to you. Um, Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.